No wonder people,
All right.
they couldn't hear you.
Oh, okay. Well, whatever. Sorry about that, folks. Read my lips. All right, so now I'm live and in color. So I don't know about the rest of you, but our house smells like latkes.
Yeah, I cooked them last night. The whole house smells like it.
Isn't Judaism funny? They either tell you to eat fatty foods or they tell you to fast. What up? I know, right? Okay. Thank you for that. I didn't realize. Okay. So you know what I'm going to talk about today, right? I don't know if it was last week or late the week before, but a coward manufactured an illegal handgun, put a suppressor on it. That's the proper name for that long tube that they put on guns so you don't hear it. It's a suppressor. He snuck up behind a very unsuspecting CEO of a healthcare company, shot him 3 times in the back. He is now in jail, and there is a running debate as to whether he should get off, because that's what needs to happen. Because the healthcare system in this country is so troubled and so broken that the only way to fix it is to go off and kill CEOs. There's actually funds. They even have a GoFundMe for his defense.
On Saturday. It's crazy.
And it's got $150,000 in it, we heard tonight. Now, let's take this a step back and look at reality. Okay? First of all, since we're Jews, let's look at the Jewish way to do this. Okay? Now, the Daf Yomi, if some of you may know that in the Talmud, a rabbi in the 1920s thought all Jews should read the Talmud, but it's an encyclopedia, it takes so long, but let's all get on the same schedule, the same page. That's what Daf means. So he created a schedule where everybody's reading the same page at a certain specific time. Now, a page is not just a page, it can be 3 to 6 pages of commentary. And we started one time, and 7 years and 4 months later, we finished, and you go back to the beginning and start all over again. So right now, the tractate that we're reading is the Tractate of Sanhedrin, which, as some of you may know, is the high court of Judaism. And in this tractate, there can be other groups, but the main 3 courts are the Beit Din, which is the court of 3, can be a rabbi and 2 elders, and their job is to adjudicate money issues. Then there's the court of 23, which is physical penalties, like lashes and capital punishment. Then you have the Sanhedrin, which is the big court, the court of 70 or 71, depending on whether or not you include the Kohen Gadol, the high priest, as the 71st. And as you might realize, a court has to be an odd number because majority rules. And that's it. There's no juries, it's just those judges. So in Judaism, if you have a health plan and you think you're getting cheated or you don't think you're getting your due, you go to the court. You go to the court of 3 judges. The healthcare company sends a representative to defend themselves. You state your case. Healthcare company states their case. The 3 judges convene. They take a look at the contract, and they come back and they say yay or nay. And that's it. Our country is no different, except that it's a little different setup in that you have a judge who monitors, and then you have a jury of 12 people that decide yay or nay based on the evidence. This guy did not receive justice. Even in Judaism, there's no capital punishment unless a death has occurred. That's the only eye for eye, tooth for tooth, life for life stipulation. But let's take a look at the guy that did this. He came from a wealthy family who made their money doing what? Owning nursing homes. That's what they did. That's where the money came from. He was a rich boy, a blue blood, silver spoon. That's who this guy was. He wasn't old enough to have healthcare problems. He was 23. The people that are protesting in favor of him, saying he did the right thing, have never held a job in their life. They are also young 20-somethings that have never had an issue with healthcare. Yeah. Everybody I saw is that age. Everybody protesting I saw was that young. Now, let's roll this back a little. Let's say you're a 20-something, and 20-somethings are idealists. I was an idealist at 20. Some of you guys are, right? Gabriella, right? You look at the world and you say, wow, it could really be better. What can I do? What we did as teenagers. And I know because I was a part of the baby boomer, the hippie generation. We protested. This guy had money. His family had money. He could have started a foundation to help people, a political action committee. He had the influence to go up against the healthcare CEOs and join the fight. And notice I said join the fight because there's a fight been going on for the last 50, 60 years about healthcare. And many solutions have been tried. We're still tweaking it out. Should it be private? Should it be government run? Should it be a little bit of each? Right? What happened a few years ago, about 10 years ago, they decided that previous conditions is not a reason to deny somebody health care. Okay? So we've made some progress. And with this person's influence and his backing, and apparently some leadership, he could have gotten it done. Or would he have gotten the leadership without going off and killing somebody and creating this thing? Now, this attitude, it stupefies us. It horrifies us that not just can somebody walk out in broad daylight in the early hours of the morning and commit such a brazen, heinous act of murder in the first degree, premeditated, but that people would actually relish it and celebrate. And you say, what's going on in the world that would precipitate something like this? Okay. Well, as a rabbi who studied Judaism, and as a former active mental health worker that has worked in the industry, I'm going to give you a few ideas of what I think is going on. We live in a world where anything goes. If I were to sit here and use certain words that denigrate certain cultures, I'd be out on my butt before you could say, Baruch Hashem. And yet people are saying no. Free speech. I can go and I can tell the world that we think that people who support Israel should die, and it's protected by the First Amendment. It's absurd. But now it's going to the court. It's being taken seriously. And why? Because people don't think for themselves anymore. Because people don't have limits. Because people think it's anything goes. In mixed martial arts, they call it vale tudo. That's the Portuguese word. Anything goes. First Amendment says free speech. I can say whatever I want and you can't stop. Look what's going on in politics and in the world. It's like a third grade recess. You say this about me, so I can say this about you. You put my guy on trial, I'm going to put your guy on trial. Back and forth. And it's fair. That's the world. There are no limits. There are nobody to say, there's no adult to say, no, you can't do that because free speech comes with responsibility. If you are a journalist and you want to express an opinion, you should have to say, this is my opinion. That way, you don't have to back it up. You don't want to back it up, fine. You want to say what you want to say, fine. We live in a capitalist society. I can buy your newspaper, I cannot buy your newspaper or magazine, and I'm done with you. And that's it. Oh no, this is news. This is news. News has become propaganda. And people say, I have a right to say it. And it's packaged as news. And why can people get away with this? Because people don't think. They don't investigate. I went through a master's program where it was all research papers. And you better know that footnotes were checked. Not just one, but 2, 3, if you want to prove the point. I have people that come to me and say, I got my research, it's on the internet. And you look at the person that they got the research from, and the person's a kook. But hey, I did my research. right? They don't have to give qualifications. You don't have to be qualified. Look at colleges. It's nuts. You have people that can get up there and accuse Israel of genocide, and they're full PhD, doctorate level professors that have this idea of history that doesn't exist in any multiverse. It doesn't. They're justifying things. And nobody is calling them into question because people are obsessed with this idea of quote unquote freedom. And I say quote unquote because it's not freedom, it's propaganda. When you are a professor or a politician or the head of a company or a parent, you got to know that people are going to sit there and listen to what you have to say because they think you're a person of authority and responsibility. People talk about, well, there's a lot of political issues, that we can get into, where people are going to say, oh, yeah, well, they can do this, they can do that. And nobody's being held accountable because it's our freedom. What happened to responsibility? Where did this kid who grew up in the lap of luxury, that went to private schools, private college, got to live in Hawaii on his parents' dime, come off with the idea that he can go out and just kill somebody and it's okay? Obviously, he never got limits. He never saw consequences, and that's the problem. He probably went through school and he didn't have to account for anything he put on paper. He wasn't held to a standard. That's my guess. Now, in Judaism, we're held to a standard. We're held to 613 standards. The world's only held to 7, but that's a good 7. That's a pretty strong 7. Because key in there is don't steal and don't murder. There it is. You're not Jewish, you want to be in God's light, you want God to smile upon you. That's all you got to do. It's easy. Don't murder, don't steal, don't gossip. Right? That's it. So what do we do about it? Our generation is looking at this young generation where you've got people going on social media and celebrating a murder. And then the white law can go on all night about this. But we have to hold people accountable. Everybody, not just this kid, but what environment did he grow up in that he thought he could do this and it was okay? Doesn't matter where he got away with it. He thought it was okay. We have to start getting in people's faces. I'm telling you, we need to take responsibility. And we do need to let people know this is not acceptable. With freedom comes responsibility. It's not just a blank card. What is it? Carte blanche? Is that the term? Carte blanche, right? It's not an open checkbook. You have to answer for your actions. So let's think about that and let's make sure that we take a stand because otherwise we're in trouble. I have this crazy notion that even though I'm old and I'll probably die soon, I don't want to die without leaving a perfect world behind. So people better hurry up and start making it perfect. We better start up and start making it perfect so I can go to my final resting place in peace. All right, let's think about that. Let's end on a high note.
Rabbi, the international court is a good example.